Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Chef John Cooking with Kids. I'm your host, Chef John, and it's just us this week. We're trying something new this week. We're going to do something, instead of doing it live, we're going to do a prepared program for you all today, so that's why we're trying an easy recipe, so that way it's not too confusing for all you kids back at home, and we can try out our new techniques that we're working here today. Today we're going to be starting off with another kid-friendly favorite, quesadillas. We're going to make it 3 different ways. We're going to make it with cheese, chicken, or beef. You can make it any way you want it at home. You can make it with beef or vegetables or any other type of meat. You can even use pork if you'd like to make more of a pork taco. So let's get started. So we're going to start by grilling our meat first. I already have some chicken and some skirt steak in the refrigerator already to go. So we're going to take it out, we'll season it up, and then we'll throw it on the grill. I like using skirt steak because it's got a nice good fat on it and it has a very good flavor. We're using breasts today, although I prefer to use chicken thighs, but I did not have time to get chicken thighs already. So that's why we're using skirt and breast today. So now what we're going to do, we're going to trim up the breasts a little bit so they cook evenly, because one is a little bit bigger than the other. So we're just going to take our knife, and then we're just gonna slice them in half. So the smaller one is a little bit. So we got a bigger one and a smaller one. So we're gonna cut the bigger one to be a little bit more in line with the size of the smaller one. Right? You also see it's got the chicken, the tender on here, which we're gonna keep on there while we grill it. Okay. So we're just gonna take it right down the middle. Now you want to have your parents help you at home, so we're just gonna split it right down the middle, almost to make almost like a fillet. So that way they'll cook a little bit evenly and they won't spend as much time on the grill because we cut it down a little bit. So now let's get ready to season them up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of vegetable oil, because when I'm going to cook on the grill, I like to put a little bit of oil on the meat that I'm cooking first, because I feel it doesn't stick as much. Alright, so we're just going to brush it on there. You don't want to put too much on there because then you get a flare up and then you get an burnt piece of meat. Alright. So now we got it on the one side there. We're going to hit it with a little bit of salt and pepper. And then we're going to hit it with a little bit of our taco seasoning, which I left the recipe for in this week's recipe cards, in addition to the recipe for the quesadillas. Alright. And then we'll do it on the other side. So like they always say, our meats don't come pre-seasoned. We're going to hit it on both sides, make sure we get a nice well-rounded seasoning on it, so that way it's a nice and flavorful chicken. Alright, do the same thing, a little bit of salt and pepper on the other side. And there you have it. So we got the chickens already seasoned up, ready to go. And now we're going to do it on the beef. Just a little bit of oil here, because there's some nice marbling on here on the skirt steak, which I really like to use for this kind of application, especially for fajitas. You get good flavor, a good char on there from the grill, and it's really very tender. You don't even have to cook it that much. Alright, so a little bit of the taco seasoning on there. Alright. You want to make sure that when you make your taco seasoning, that you want to grind it up extra nice, so that way it's a nice powder and you don't have any clumps or lumps in there. Alright, so just flip over the steak. A little bit of oil right there. Alright. And we're just going to finish seasoning it up. Doesn't really matter how you season, whether you put the salt and pepper first or the taco seasoning first. It doesn't matter, it's all going to stick on there just the same. So we'll put them back there on our tray, and then we'll be ready to take them on outside. One of the advantages of doing it not live is you get to move to locations. Now we've gone out into my wonderful backyard with my grill, and we've got it already set up. We had it fired up. We had it preheat for the last 40 minutes or so on high. In case you want to get your parents to help you out with this, because too young to be grilling for the most part. We have it cranked up about 600 degrees right now. But that's just to get it warmed up, get the grills heat up. You don't want to turn it on, let it get warmed up for 10 minutes, and then it's not going to be hot enough. You're not going to get a good sear off there. So you want to let the grills in the grill fire up for good, 10-15 minutes on it, so you can get a good look down there. You want to get them nice and hot. See how it's starting to turn a little bit white in there? That means the grill is going to be nice and hot. So what we're going to do is take our scraper. Always make sure that we clean off our grill. Everything that was in there from the last time, nice and cleaned off. Now we're going to turn down our heat because we don't need it hot anymore. Because now that we got the grills heated up, they're going to stay nice and hot. So now we got the grills nice and clean. Now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to season. You want to hit it with a little bit of oil to help with it non-stick. So what I have here is an old towel, and you want to have your parents do this with you. Take an old towel, a little bit of vegetable oil, and we're just going to pour it on the towel, get it nice and soaked. And then we're just going to run it up and down the grates. All right. Help season up the grates so they're nice, so they don't stick too bad. All right. All right. So we're going to take our meat, our chicken, and our beef that we have already seasoned up from inside before. We're just going to lay it on the grill. All right. Season on there right now. All right. Now we're going to turn down the grill a little bit more. You can see we got it nice and burning here. Now, I like to turn on the grill, all the burners on so they get nice and hot. But when you're not using this, like I'm not using a number 5 burner here, so I turned it off because it's just going to waste fuel. So now we got this on here. We're going to let it cook for about 4 minutes. So now we've hit around the 3-minute mark. Getting a nice little color on there. I don't like to cook food when I'm trying to at least mark it on the grill. I don't like to put the lid on it because it's going to start cooking the whole thing around. It's going to become an oven basically, and we don't want that when we're grilling because we want to absorb the nice flavor from the grates and the char and from the seasoning we put on there. So now it's been about 4 minutes on the grill. We're just going to take it and we're going to make what's called a crosshatch, which makes it really look really nice and pretty. And when you do serving up meat like off the grill, it's going to look really fancy when you do it. All right, so we're just going to turn it. We're not flipping it, we're just going to turn it about 45 degrees, 45 to 90 degrees, and you'll see what I mean when we take it off the grill, because you want to see those nice grate marks, and it's going to look really good and really professional when you do it. So we're going to let this cook about another 3 to 4 minutes, and then we're going to flip it over for the last time, and we're just going to let it cook all the way through for about 6 minutes on the other side. Alright, so now it's been about 3 minutes, so we're going to flip them over onto the other side. I'll show you what I mean when we have a crosshatch on the stick. Might be able to see a little bit better on the chicken. See how we have the nice clean lines and we got the cross, so it looks really fancy. So we're going to let this finish through. We're going to let it finish cooking about 6 minutes. And then we're going to put it on our tray, let it rest for about 5 minutes. We're going to let all the juices reabsorb into the steak, because right now, once we take it off the grill, all the juices are going to be really constricted. And then if you start cutting it, all the juice is just going to spill out all over your cutting board. We don't want that. So we're just going to take it off the grill. We're going to let it sit for about 5 minutes. We're going to let those juices relax and spread out evenly throughout the meat. And we're going to start slicing it up, and then we'll start getting ready to make our quesadillas. Okay. So now we've hit around the 3-minute mark. Getting a nice little color on that. I don't like to cook food when I'm trying to at least mark it on the grill. I don't like to put the lid on it because it's going to start cooking the whole thing around. It's going to become an oven basically, and we don't want that when we're grilling because we want to absorb the nice flavor from the grates and the char and from the seasoning we put on there. So now it's been about 4 minutes on the grill. We're just going to take it and we're going to make what's called a crosshatch, which makes it really look really nice and pretty. And when you do serving up meat like off the grill, it's going to look really fancy when you do it. All right, so we're just going to turn it. We're not flipping it, we're just going to turn it about 45 degrees, 45 to 90 degrees, and you'll see what I mean when we take it off the grill, because you want to see those nice grate marks, and it's going to look really good and really professional when you do it. Right? So we're going to let this cook about another 3 to 4 minutes, and then we're going to flip it over for the last time, and we're just going to let it cook all the way through for about 6 minutes on the other side. Now we're ready. We'll take them off the grill. We got a nice tender, juicy. Couldn't really see it before, but it's got some nice crosshatch marks on it. Got some nice crosshatch marks on there, so it looks really nice. And I like to do it because it just keeps me in practice when I'm cooking. It's fun, and when it really impresses people when you do it. Now we're just going to let it take them off here. And then we're going to turn up our grill because we're all done. We don't want to run out of gas. Almost done. What we're going to do is we're going to take this inside. We're going to put it on tin foil for, like I said, about 5 minutes. Let all the juices rest and recuperate and redistribute back into the meat, so when we go to cut them later, it doesn't go all over your cutting board. And then we're going to start building our quesadillas, and I'm going to serve it with rice today. You can serve it with whatever you like, but I like to serve it with rice, a little bit of rice and beans. I like to use black beans instead of red beans, but that's just me. You can make it however you want. Okay, so while our meat is resting, we got it resting under some aluminum foil. We're going to let it slide. We're going to slice it in a little bit, but first we're going to get started on our rice. So we're bringing it in here. Okay, so I know we made rice before on the show before, but so we're going to pretty much do the same recipe as we did last time. So we got our sauce pot all ready. We got our ingredients already measured out. We got 1 can of black beans. You can use kidney beans if you want. I like to use black beans. 2.5 cups of chicken broth or chicken stock. 1 cup of rice, and then about 1/2 cup of frozen corn. And then we're going to add to it 1 tablespoon of butter once it comes to a boil. So what we're going to turn our heat on and crank it up to high. It's on. Okay. And we're going to bring it up to a boil, which will take a couple of moments. About 1 can of black beans. You can use kidney beans if you want. I like to use black beans. 2.5 cups of chicken broth or chicken stock. 1 cup of rice, and then about 1/2 cup of frozen corn. And then we're going to add to it 1 tablespoon of butter once it comes to a boil. So what we're going to do, we're going to turn our heat on and crank it up to high. That's on. Okay. And we're going to bring it up to a boil, which will take a couple of moments. Alright, so then we got our beans. Okay, so now we got our griddle heated up 350 degrees, and we got our situation all set up here. We have a nice little assembly line going all the way through. Alright, so we have everything set up, and we got a little cutting board on the end so we can cut everything up and get it onto the plate. Okay, so we got our griddle already warmed up, so we're going to zoom on in, and then we're going to take a look at how we're going to build this thing. Alright, so we're going to take our vegetable oil, we're going to put a nice little line down the center. We're going to get some paper towels, good double thickness of it, so you can spread out the oil on the whole pan itself, the whole surface of the griddle. I like to use a griddle because it's nice and uniform heat. It'll self-regulate because it's got a thermostat on there, and it's a large surface, so I can cook 2, maybe 3 at once we get them really going. Alright, so we're going to use 12-inch tortillas. because one quesadilla should be enough per person. So now we got it all greased up. We're going to take one tortilla. That might be a little bit bigger than 12 inches. All right, so we're not going to be able to make two at one time, but that's okay. So we're going to put the tortilla down, open face, and then what I like to do is I like to add in the cheese. And then while the tortilla heats up and browns, it'll help melt the cheese as well. We don't want the cheese to melt too much. We want to put a nice, almost like we're making a pizza with the cheese. You want to bring it around pretty much all the way, almost to the end. You want to leave about a half an inch on the end so you don't have too much ooze over. And then we're just going to put enough in there just to cover the bottom nicely. And then once we get done, we're going to start, we'll put our meat in there. We're going to spread it out evenly along half of it, and then we'll flip it in half and we'll fold it on top of each other. And then we'll let it cook, and then we'll flip it over about halfway through, and so that way both sides get evenly browned on the same side of the grill. So once we finish this off, we'll be able to start another one and keep one going at a time. Alright, so now we got it starting to melt a little bit. You can see a little bit of cheese starting to melt in there, so that means it's time to put in our chicken or our beef. So we're going to put in about 4 ounces. Alright, I'm going to spread that out all nice. I'm going to fill it up to about, try to line it up to about the halfway point, so that way you got some nice coverage along the bottom there. Alright, you see it's almost melted, so now we're going to take our half. Just going to flip it over like that. See how we already got a little bit of color on there? That'll save time while we're cooking it, so we're just going to shove this over onto the side here, and then we'll be able to get started on our next one. So for today, we're just going to make one chicken, one beef. You can make them however you want. If you want to make cheese, because you know your kids are picky eaters, you can just put in there some cheese. If you want to get fancy, you want to sneak something in there, just a little peppers and onion, just to give a little bit of vegetables in there, give it a little bit extra flavor. Oh, one thing we forgot to do, before we close it up, we'll put in a little bit of that taco seasoning, give it a little extra taco flavor. The cheese we're using is a Mexican style blend. You can buy them in the store pre-made. I shredded this earlier. All it is a little bit of jack cheese, regular cheddar cheese, and then asadero cheese, or queso fresco, which is Mexican style cheese. It's almost like a mozzarella. It's a little more crumblier. It doesn't shred as easy, but you can, if you put a little bit of time and effort, you can make it shred. So I like to do that. And then just mix it all together in a bowl, equal rations, or however you want to do it. And then that's it. Just mix it together. And then the taco seasoning is from before. It's what we put on the steak and the chicken, but we're just going to give a little extra into the quesadilla just to give it a little bit more fun. And then if you want, you can put some taco sauce in here. You can put some hot sauce in here. Anything to spice it up, really. You can make it your own. It doesn't have to be one set thing. Alright, so now we've got 2 there. Alright. Give that a little pat down. Give that a little turn on the side. Now if we're making more, we might have room now. So we'll just spread it out. We'll give this one a flip. See how we have a nice brown crisp crust on the outside there. So we're going to get, that's what we want to look. We want it nice and crispy. We don't want it too burnt, but we want it nice and crisp, so that way it doesn't flop out too much. Alright. And then we're going to let the other quesadilla cook for just a couple of minutes. And then we're going to show you how to cut and flip them. Alright, so that means our rice is all ready to go here. So we're just going to take the lid off. Pop this off. We're going to cut the heat. And now we have it all ready to go there. That's sizzling, just a little bit of water that condensed down on the back of the stove as I took the lid off. So now we're going to put in our corn, our beans, put salt and pepper in there, season up the salt and the beans. And I'm just going to give it a little mix in there. Now what we can do is we can take we can add a little bit of water to the bottom, try to get stuck a little bit. Just glaze with the pan there. The rice will absorb that water, but we want to get out anything off the bottom of the pan as much as we can. that in there. I don't know about you, but I like to put a little bit of cheese in there, just to make it stick a little bit, with a little extra flavor in there. Just not too much. Just about 2 teaspoons. Because you don't want too much in there. You want just enough. All right, and then we'll give that a little stir, and then we'll put the cover back on there, and we'll keep that warm until we're getting ready to serve it out. Keep that warm, and it's going to stay there until we're ready to serve, probably about 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, so this brings us pretty much into the final stretch of our quesadilla and rice dish tonight. So we got our quesadilla already done off the griddle. We're going to cut it into 4s, or however you want to cut it up. I like to cut it into 4s. You can cut up into 6, cut it up into 8, however size you're trying to feed your family, or however old your kids are yours, you're trying to make them up. All right, so let's get into it. Let's finish cutting it up, and then we'll show you what it looks like on the plate and how we can make it look really nice. All right, so the way I like to do it, I like to cut it in half, and then half again. And you really want to get nope. Just gonna shingle it on there. Give it all the way around like that. We're going to take a little bit of our guacamole. To get extra fancy and quenelle this, which is a French term to make a little. Just going to finish it up like that. And there we have it. We got one chicken quesadilla. And then we're going to we got our garnish here, we got our salsa, you can put in your pico de gallo, some sour cream. And then we're going to finish up by putting a little bit of rice on the side there. Just a little hearty extra portion. And there we go, there we have it. We got one chicken quesadilla with a little bit of rice and beans, guacamole, salsa, and sour cream all ready to go for a lovely, nutritious meal. So that pretty much sums it up for today. If you have any questions, comments, queries, that sort of thing, shoot us a direct message on Facebook or send it to my email at chefjohn81@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you and we'll reply to anybody's comments. If you have any questions for today, like I said, shoot us an email, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, and feel free to join our group on Facebook Live. And we'll look forward again to seeing you next week. Next week we're going to send up a little poll, see if anything in particular people would want to try, and we'll post the recipe and we'll take it from there. So see you next week. I'm Chef John. Hope to see you again real soon, and see you again. You know why it's good? Because I made it. See you next time, folks.